Well, welcome back to Drum Room Rescue, my little series where I walk you through my design and construction for the renovation of my music room or my drum room practice space. In past episodes, we've taken a look at the different design approaches in terms of construction details, some specific topics such as lighting, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and doors. It's been a little bit of time since we last got together. In that time, probably about 2 months, I've gone through the entire construction process, and what you can see around you is the finished product. I put together sort of a daily project journal that kind of little snippets of the daily challenges and undergoings in terms of actually doing the construction. Everything from demolition to framing, sheetrock, painting, electrical, and some of the more detailed pieces like doing doors and trim and that sort of piece. So took almost 2 months to finish the project, but here we are and we're back. One of the things we're going to do today is look at how did we do in terms of acoustic isolation. If you recall, there were kind of two main things that we're trying to work on here, and one was acoustic isolation that was preventing sound from inside the space going out and sound from outside coming in. And the second was about acoustic treatment. So in terms of acoustic isolation, you saw that we paid a lot of attention to wall and ceiling assemblies and ceiling and some of those design approaches in terms of mass spring mass. And then in terms of acoustic treatment, what you can see around you are a series of acoustic panels that have been installed. This really isn't meant to be like a music studio or even really a live room for recording, although I intend to record in here. Really, this acoustic treatment here was just to try to cut down on some of the reverb. And you know, it was funny when I first finished the room within a room. When you came in here, it was a pretty giant reverb chamber. So at least we put up about 12 acoustic panels, including the ceiling. You know, it kind of took out some of that flutter echo and kind of smoothed things out a little bit. And today we're going to look at acoustic control. So before I started doing any sort of project work here, I used an app on my phone that's put out by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. It's a sound pressure level measuring device. And I took some readings here in the drum room as well as a couple of locations outside, specifically just outside the space in the garage, as well as a couple of spots in my backyard adjacent the neighbor's property. And then just north of the drum room or the garage, if you recall, there's a multi-unit residential apartment there. I took a measurement there, and then just on the west side, or the other side of the kit behind me, that other side of that wall, I took a measurement there. So that we took those, now it's, you know, a couple of months ago. So now I went back and repeated all of those measurements here now that the space is finished. So let's see how we did. So as you can see, in terms of acoustic control, I think we had pretty good outcomes. I didn't have any specific goals, like I need to get 60 decibels of reduction or anything going in, but I wanted to implement a lot of best practices in terms of acoustic isolation. But I'm actually really happy with the results. And I think it really will enable me to sort of more confidently use this space even outside of the hours that I usually would use the space. And I think it also kind of future-proofs issues down the road in terms of neighborly relations and that sort of thing. Always tough, I guess, living next to a drummer. But in the end, I think we did pretty well. As you can see, at each location that we measured, there's a pretty significant drop in the peak sound pressure level. And so, compared to ambient, I don't think anybody would hardly notice anything that's going on in here in terms of sound. So where do we go from here? Well, we're going to do a couple of more episodes. I want to kind of walk you through the space and show you how some of the design elements or the best practices that I planned eventually got implemented here, and give you a little tour of the aesthetics. I'm really happy with how it turned out in terms of finishes and some of the kind of more HGTV pieces. I think it's a really good looking room. And then also maybe talk a little bit about lessons learned. Things that, it's always interesting taking sort of designs and concepts that you've thought about or put on paper. And then obviously when you go to try to do that in real life, sometimes the two don't exactly line up. So I'll walk you through a couple things, and maybe there's some lessons learned there that'll be helpful for you in terms of planning your project. So be on the lookout for a couple more episodes of Drum Room Rescue. And I appreciate your time, and hopefully it's helpful for you. Thank you for joining.